Welcome to my Arcane Mage PvP guide for Dragonflight Season 3. In this guide, we're going to cover mostly offense and dishing out damage. I feel like a lot of people get very intimidated when it comes to playing Arcane because the damage rotation seems a lot more complex than the other two mage specs, which, to be fair, it is. I would say Arcane is the highest skill ceiling and even skill floor spec of the three at the moment. But unfortunately, or fortunately, it is the strongest spec of Mage in this current meta in terms of solo shuffle and threes. Yeah, I'd highly recommend the spec. It's really fun to play and really rewarding once you start to understand the core fundamentals. Actually, after playing Arcane, when you go back to playing Fire, Fire feels so one-dimensional and like way more boring compared to Arcane. Fire just feels like so simple, and once you learn Arcane, you're gonna love it. Before we get into the video though, I want to thank you guys for helping me hit the 400 subs on Twitch. I had a sub goal, 400 total subs to make this guide, so thank you if you help support that goal. And shout out to Martian Pig as well for the crazy tip support and for gifting subs and helping me finish up that sub goal. So thank you. And now we have like a new sub goal for a Frost guide if you guys are interested in that. Yeah, let's get into the guide. I'm going to quickly just start off with some of the talents. I don't really change talents that much. I kind of stick to like the core build. In terms of PvP talents, you're going to play Master Shepherd, Ring of Fire, and Temporal Shield. This is kind of like your baseline, but you can actually opt out of Temporal and kind of go the Cubsy style and play Arcanosphere. This is really good because it actually knocks people off of you. You're not ever really going to full channel it because the damage isn't too great, but you can like use it for a tick and not use it as a knock them off you. Another really nice thing is this orb travels really far and goes through pillars. So like in very damp matchups, you can like stop drinks on the enemy healer, especially like our druids, by just sending out the orb. So the utility on this is actually nuts if you can use it well. You can also juke kicks with it a lot too. I used to just play temp all the time, but I realized like I don't know when they did this, but they nerfed it. It doesn't heal you for 100% of the damage taken, only 60%. I'm playing Arcanosphere more lately, especially with the meta being so damp and such long games. It's all about like just surviving and drinking. I feel like this is like really high value. Shout out to Cubsy because he's the one that kind of innovated that, I feel like, or at least use it the way he does. In terms of actual mage talents, you won't change much. Like you'll go, I used to play ice flows into sub rogues to like blink during their goes, but most rogues just play outlaw now, and ice flows is best into sub rogues just to be able to blink stuns. You could opt into this versus classes that have a lot of stuns. If you want to just play max defensive, not really pushing for CC, still good. But I just like ice flows. It opens up more opportunities to land CC, and I'm kind of just more used to it. But if you do use ice flows, have a nice bind for it, and also really important that you have a stop casting bind. Outside of that, obviously remove curse is really good against warlocks to remove curse of tongues, curse of weakness off your teammates. Havoc as well is really important. You can like insta dispel havoc before the coil goes out, so the coil only hits single. Also really good for dispelling hexes and stuff, obviously. But you can opt into arcane warding instead if you're fighting a team that has no curses, or if let's say you're fighting a lock wizard cleave, you could like go like this. This is magic reduct by 4%. If you're fighting a wizard cleave without curses, again, you can like drop this and go into like this or this, so that way you're just taking the right path rather than this. If you're playing double DPS 2s, you could go like block heal as well, like this, because you don't have a healer on your team, right? But in threes, you're not going to ever really play that. In terms of mage actual arcane talents, there's only one thing I really changed. It's either Arcane Echo or Improved Prism Barrier. Arcane Echo is really nice because when you touch the target, Touch of Magi, which is your burst cooldown, every time that target takes direct damage, it explodes more damage. So this is where you'll actually use like your Nether Tempest. I'll go into more detail later. Let's just say like you touch, you Nether Tempest, and now like the Nether Tempest will trigger it every time. Because it's not about how much damage you do, it's just about how many ticks you do. Ticks of damage. So it combos really well with like missile ticks. And this is how you do like, it'll do like 5% increased damage throughout a game if you optimize it well. The downside is like the cleave that procs from it breaks CC, like polys and stuff. So it's kind of bad if you're playing setup base or if you have like a rogue on your team. But it just depends. I play it all the time into Ardruids though, because I'm not really going to go for sheeps into Ardruids anyways. I think in this meta where it's not really CC based, it's more like just damage based, and survive really good at the moment. But that being said, improved Prism Barrier is really crazy too, because not only does it decrease magic damage you take when it's up,
love that
it decreases the duration of harmful magic effects by 15 extra %. So normally it reduces magic duration by 25, I think. And with the extra 15, it puts it to 40%. So let's say you get feared with the shield up. The fear duration is cut by 40%. So instead of it being like a full fear, it becomes like a half fear. And it synergizes really well with mass barrier, because with mass barrier, you can put your barrier on your whole team early game, right? Before the gates open, when the gates has 30 seconds or less, you'll mass barrier, and the mass barrier will stick for when the gates open. So now, like, if your healer gets trapped or feared or polyed, it's going to be halved. It's really strong. Or they have to like purge it or break it first. That's like a really good utility thing that Arcane provides. But yeah, that's about it. I'm not going to change up too many other things. All right, so let's go over the damage rotation a little bit. You have Arcane Blast, you have Missiles, you have Barrage, and Orb, okay? Those are your 4 like rotational buttons. First is Arcane Blast. This is like your main filler. Each time you cast it, it gives you a combo point. And then you have Barrage, which is your spender. That's going to spend your combo points, okay? The thing about Arcane Blast is it hits harder, obviously, when you have 4 combo points. And same with Barrage. It's going to hit harder when you have 4 combo points. Another thing about Arcane Blast is it's faster to cast when you have more combo points. So if you don't have combo points, it's 1.5 second cast. Pretty slow. And it also doesn't hit hard at all. So you're not actually going to press Arcane Blast unless you have 3 or 4 combo points. Yes, it generates combo points, but you're not using it as a combo point generator is what I'm trying to say. What you actually use as a combo point generator is Arcane Orb. You have 2 charges of this on a 20-second cooldown. The more targets it hits, the more combo points it gives you. So you're usually going to like send it in and let it hit like 2 or 3 targets, and it'll give you 4 combo points. It gives you 1 initially and an extra 1 per target it hits. So that's like a fast way to generate max combo points instantly. So Arcane Orb, and the other one is Touch. It's a 45-second cooldown. It'll instantly give you 4 charges. Puts a debuff on the target, which will like build up damage on it, and it explodes at the end of the 12 seconds. The more damage you do to it. It's like your major offensive cooldown. 45 seconds for both. So yeah, again, you're orbing a lot. And then you also have like Shifting Power, which will reset all your cooldowns, which is like going to reset your orb. So you want to like, yeah, just be good at like weaving in arcane orbs. And then also you have Missiles, right? Did you see this buff right here? This is a clear cast proc. So when this buff is up, see, I have 2 of them now. I have a weak where tracking the amount of stacks I have. It makes your missiles hit harder and hit faster, and you can channel it while moving. There's also a talent that makes it so that your clear cast has a chance to not be soaked. So if you have 2 stacks, you can still do it 3 times. That is generated by spending mana. So when you spend mana, you have a chance to get clear cast proc, stacking up to 3. It's very important that you have stop casting keybind as an arcane mage, because normally, right here, if you go to miscellaneous, stop casting, I have it bound to my Razor Naga, the 10 on my Naga. Normally to fake cast, you will just like move to fake cast, right? But because of the missiles, you can move while casting. You have to have a separate bind for it. Unless you're comfortable pressing escape. You could do that too. But anyways, like I mentioned, you have to spend mana, and it gives you a chance to proc these clear casts. And the more mana intensive an ability is, the higher chance that it'll proc a clear cast. So like I mentioned earlier with Arcane Blast, if you have 4 combo points, it'll be the most mana intensive thing you can do. See how I casted 2 there and it gave me 2, like 1 per cast? And so I went from 1 to 3 right there. So that's the highest, that's the fastest way to farm clear cast, is to spam cast Arcane Blast with 4 combo points. That's like the biggest mistake I see like beginner arcane mages doing, is they don't cast Arcane Blast enough. But it's also the hardest thing to pump out because of like how many kicks and interrupts there are in this game. So like it's all about like finding windows to free cast, but with either positioning or proccing precogs. So yeah, you're gonna be weaving that in. And then with these arcane missiles, not only are they empowered, and you can use them while running, they actually give you a buff called Nether Precision. So it's for 2 stacks, it increases your Arcane Blast damage by 20%. So the next 2 Arcane Blasts are empowered with damage. And then your Arcane Blasting, which will farm more clear cast. So they kind of work off each other. So like missiles into 4 combo point double Arcane Blasts. This will be like you kind of weave them in and out, and that's how you'll maximize your damage. And then you use your Barrage finisher to reset your combo points and maybe execute them. Your Barrage is, yeah, your finisher. So with Barrage, also the missiles, not only do they buff your Arcane Blast damage, but it also will buff your Barrage damage. So every time your missile tick connects, it gives you a stack of this. It stacks up to 10. So that will increase the damage of your Barrage, your finisher, by 50%. Also, when your target is below 35% HP, your barrage will hit harder. And on top of that, if the target has other players or pets stacked on it, your barrage will hit harder. So your barrage, see how it's right here, I'm gonna barrage. It sends out more. It cleaves up to like 5 targets, I think. So each target it hits, it makes your barrage hit harder by 10%. So there's a lot of modifiers to make that barrage hit harder. So those are things you want to keep in mind. So like if they're really close to 35%, you want to like get them lower with more missiles and then barrage to execute. And that's how you get those crazy 300k arcane blasts, is because it's all those modifiers adding on top of each other. Oh, another way to spend mana is going to be just like spell steal as well, like spamming spell steal. That's one really broken part about Arcane is you can spam spell steal and not go As Fire and Frost, you can only spell steal 5 times because each spell steal takes like 20% of your mana bar. So after 5 spell steals, you're tapped. Like you can't even press combust. You have to like be careful with spell stealing as Fire and Frost. Your mana bar as Fire and Frost is essentially just spell steal charges. You got to think of it that way. That slowly generates back. But as Arcane, like you don't give a fuck, man. You're just spamming spell steals. You can like purge all the buffs, all the hots. In between goes, if you don't have like your offensive cooldowns ready, like it's so high value because you're stripping the enemy of all their buffs and then and farming clear casts with it, right? So that's another really good filler. So your fillers are gonna be spell steal and arcane blasts. And then like when your burst phase is ready, and what I mean by that is when you have like surge, touch, and palm ready, that's when you go ham. And you want to have pre-built clear cast going into it because then you'll do the most damage, right? So your burst cooldowns, again, are Arcane Surge, Touch of the Magi, and Presence of Mind. Palm is going to make the next 2 Arcane Blasts insta. Touch, it's going to give you instant 4 combo points and put a debuff on the target that explodes in 12 seconds later, adding up all the damage you did to that target within the 12-second duration. And then you have Surge, which once you get it off, it gives you a damage buff. It says 35% here. I think it's nerfed a bit in PvP, but anyways, once you get that off, it explodes on the target for like pretty big damage, which also is AoE. It'll break CC, so keep that in mind. And then you'll like touch and then send missiles, and then you'll palm double arcane blast. Then barrage to execute. It's pretty much the same rotation. This rotation with surge though is just gonna depend on how many clear casts you have and also just how many kicks the enemy team has. If there's 2 guys on you and they both have kick, obviously like you want to like juke that, right? So like sometimes I'll like missile tick just for a second just to get the nether precision buff and like in 0.1 seconds cancel it, juke a kick, and then palm double arcane blast. It's one thing to note is it's really important that you don't desync your touch and palm because they're both 45-second cooldowns instant, and the palm only goes on cooldown once you've spent both charges of the palm arcane blasts. You don't want to like desync them by like touching and casting missiles and getting locked on missiles and then palm blasting late, because then you'll find yourself in situations where like your touch is ready later but your palm is still on cooldown for 20 seconds. That's just one thing to note. You want to like, if you're gonna touch, yeah, squeeze in some missiles if possible, but if there's kicks available and you can't like LOS mid missile cast, then just send the touch palms and then missile later. That's like one thing to note is like when you have clear cast, since you can like missile while moving, you can like missile then instantly line and shoot them through the pillar and avoid kicks and stuff like that, like range kicks. But yeah, again, like outside of goes, if you don't have cooldowns, like just spam spell steal, spam arcane blast if possible. And best case scenario, man, like you have 2 or 3 clear casts already for the go. So then you can pre-ring a fire to get the dot ticking, get the surge off. Then you can like touch, missiles, get some missiles in if you can free cast, then palm blast into barrage. And the barrage might proc an orb too. The missiles, free cast arcane blast as well if possible into barrage. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned this yet, but when you have orb, right? Your orb will shoot out and give you combo points. Every time you barrage, there's a chance that it spawns an orb, and that orb will give you 4 combo points again. When you have crazy RNG, you can like barrage, which will proc an orb, and then barrage again, which will proc an orb, then barrage again and proc it. So it's like barrage, and it's like 3 orbs. And you're just like executing because the target's already below 35%. That's like the best feeling ever as Arcane. Okay, let's do our rotation here again. Because we're playing Echo, actually, when you touch the target, remember you want to touch and Nether Tempest to make it like proc the Echo more. And if you can free cast, get the missiles in. But again, if there's kicks, man, like you gotta juke them. And then when everything's on cooldown, this is the best time. After you've like altered and stuff too, go behind the pillars, shift. And then you can shift all these cooldowns back, including Ring of Fire, including alter, including temp, CS, DB, Blast Wave, Novas. Like once you've like used all your utility and damage, that's when you shift everything back, and then you could do your goes more often and rotate defenses more often throughout a match, right? Throughout like a longer match, you can get like 4 shifts or more off, so it's good that you squeeze those in, but after you've used your burst cooldowns. In terms of defensives, I like to rotate with Alter first. Alter is really good to use first because like usually you're gonna be full HP at the beginning, and as soon as they connect, you'll Alter and blink away, and just like try to like move away from where you altered because you're gonna go back there later, and you want to like try to make, especially versus melee, you want to make them waste their gap closer. If they want to reconnect after, you want them to like commit a gap closer, so that way you can like max kite. And then if they connect again, you can temp if you're playing it, and then like later on, and then you can knock them into like Ice Nova or regular Nova, and then like last is your greater invis. This is when you press it, it's 60% dam reduct, so 60% wall for 3 seconds. So that's gonna be like your second last. Oh, also mirror images. When this is out, it makes damage hit 20% less. So this is like a mini wall. Mirror image is a mini wall. Greater invis is a big wall. And then before the gates open, you want to mass barrier. 30 seconds. When the timer hits 30 seconds or less, you mass barrier, and that the mass barrier will stick on your whole team, and that'll be really good because it means like less CC and support for the opener. And then ice blocks last. You want to block last, obviously, because it's the longest cooldown. You want to rotate like your shortest cooldowns first. Oh, also, I forgot to mention one of the most important things, which is your 4-set as Arcane. So how the 4-set works is after you have consumed 3 clear casts, it gives you an empowered missile. So, okay, there's 1 clear cast. So that one, it doesn't count. There's like a chance for your clear cast to not use the stack. So that doesn't count. But right here, there's 1 stack. There's 2 stacks with the clear cast, okay? Let me get another clear cast real quick. Right here. So the third one, after you've used 3 clear casts, now you get this buff right here. This is going to empower your missile damage by 75% in PvP, and it's going to cleave as well. So this is what it looks like. So now it's hitting all the other targets too. So that's what you want for your biggest burst phase. So like if you can have that while your surge is up, that's going to be the maximum damage. Obviously you're using your filler right now. Oh, also sometimes you get surge procs as well. With this talent right here, time anomaly, it gives you like random surge procs, which is gonna recover your mana for you, along with the increased damage. So like right here, you could like surge because you're close to 3 stacks, right? Barrage to slow the target, touch, Tempest, and then missiles, and now you get like the big missiles right here. This is the empowered missiles. Empowered missiles into like Palm Blast, into more missiles, into barrage when they're below 35%. Orb to get 4 more combo points, into missiles. Into Arcane Blast, into more missiles with the 4-set. This is like best case scenario when you can free cast Pump, right? And if you can't, the second best case scenario is like you juke a kick with like a clear cut. Right here, you juke a kick, precog, and now you can hard cast Arcane Blast, which will then give you more missiles. So yeah, it's good to definitely play around this buff going into your surge, if possible. Okay, so now I'm just going to commentate over like an intro to this one solo shuffle round I had, just to give an example of how to min-max your damage in an actual game scenario. In this shuffle, we're playing DH Mage Disc Priest, and we're fighting SP, Sub Rogue, H Pal. So right here, first things first, I'm going to try to get in combat, so that way I don't get sapped and my healer doesn't get sapped. So I spell steal the priest. I'm also using Trophy GCD, the add-on, to show my globals down here, so you can keep an eye on that while we do this quick VOD review. So spell steal to get in combat. Then I followed up with a barrage. Barrage is fine because, you know, I'm slowing the kill target, right? With Chrono Shift, I'm giving myself a sprint, and I'm starting to build up these Arcane Tempo stacks. I used to be really anal about these stacks. I used to like try to always get 5 before I go, but nowadays, like, you have so much haste from like having so much secondary stats in this season that it's not as important. But yeah, it's good to try to maintain this as much as possible, but it's not your #1 priority. I'll follow it up with a clear cast. I think I end up... Let's see. I think I ended up getting a clear cast from the first spell steal. Yeah. So what I said earlier, right, was like spell steal is one of your main fillers to clean the target, and also it gives you a chance to give clear cast procs. Not as high of a chance as spamming 4 combo point arcane blasts, but yeah, right there. I'll actually send my first missiles first. A lot of people I think will try to save their clear cast for the surge go when you get your surge off. but it's really not that bad if you start stacking up your 4 sets. So that way you can like instantly have a battery empowered missile when you surge. I'll just send missile right there. I'll shoot out a regular orb. Remember what I said earlier? When you shoot out an orb, it gives you 1 combo point immediately and then additional combo point per target it hits. So right here, you'll see the orb hits the pally and the priest. So now I go from 0 to 3 combo points from this orb. And what I'm trying to do here, get some combo points and spam out some arcane blasts, because that's the best way to generate missiles, right? And the rogue was still in stealth up to this point. So I'm just trying to like pre-build missiles and be early. So that way I can like be prepared to min-max my pump when I do surge. So here I'll arcane blast once. The first arcane blast already gives me a clear cast. I'll arcane blast again. Doesn't give me a clear cast, but we're getting those arcane blasts out with instant 3-4 combo points, which is good, right? I try to shoot the rogue here, which he vanishes. I send another clear cast into the priest. So now we're at 2 stacks of battery. So I need to just use 1 more and then I'll get the empowered missile. So I'm like pre-building. This is the pre-build. Now I try to surge right here. Now I try to surge and I get kicked on the surge, which locks me on arcane, which is kind of unfortunate. I'll meld here. I'll try to like meld the kidney. I knock him away from me. It sucks I couldn't alter because I got kicked on arcane. Usually you would want to alter at 100% there, but because I got kicked, like if I altered as soon as the kick ended, I'd be altering at 40%. So it's not good. I got dueled. He cloaks. I try to port the step, but he actually doesn't step me here. It's kind of awkward. But anyways, I'm going to just end up DB sheeping rogue here. Now I want to get my surge off because I have 2 clear cast stacks and I already have 2 batteries. So I want to like be able to have surge up during my first battery, right? So I'm going to shoot the rogue. Rogue's kick comes up soon. I steal the PI and I try to get the surge off here before kick comes up. I blink away. Boom, there's the surge. So now I surge. I'm going to barrage first thing. I had 4 combo points, but it's okay to spend the combo points by barraging because what that does is it slows the kill target for my burst phase. It gives me a sprint and it refreshes my tempo. So right here, I didn't have a tempo prior to this, so it's not the best, but sometimes you'll have like 3 or 4 tempo stacks and it'll refresh it for your burst phase, which will be good because you're not going to be barraging for a little bit, right? Because now you're going to be focused on missiling and palm blasting. So you cast the surge, and the second you do that, you actually just like send a barrage to slow the target, give yourself a spin buff, refresh your tempo, and then you'll touch, which will instantly give you 4 combo points anyways. So barrage, I touch. Now I have 4 combo points. Now I send my missiles. Boom, I sent my missiles. Now I have a battery. Then I'll palm blast for those big palm damage. Then I'll send my empowered missiles into another barrage, into regular clear cast missiles. And we get dispersed because of that. So let me just like go back. Just go over this part again. Get the surge off. Barrage first to slow them. Touch, missiles. Now I have a battery missiles. I'm going to palm blast. One thing to keep in mind, if you already have 3 missile stacks, like clear cast stacks, do not palm blast because like I mentioned earlier, arcane blast, there's a very high chance that generates clear cast stacks, right? So you don't want to be over capped on these. So if you have 3 already, like try to like use 1 or 2 before you palm blast because there's a high chance that you can go from 1 clear cast to 3 after you've palm blasted twice because each of those blasts could give you a proc, right? So like don't over cap. But right here I had 2. And the first arcane blast I pressed didn't give me a stack, but the second blast gives me a clear cast. So now I'm following up more missiles. The first one's empowered, does big damage, cleaves to the rogue, and the second one procs disperse. So that's generally what the burst phase is going to look like. One thing that could have gone better prior to this is if I would like pre-ring of fire the ghost. So right here, like before I even surge, if I could drop a ring of fire here and have that ring of fire ticking during my surge, touch palm, battery missile burst phase, that's going to be like the most damage you can do, right? So you try to do that if possible, but here I kind of felt rushed because the rogue's kick was coming back up. I'm not on stun DR, like I'm going to get shut down soon. So I just want to get the surge off and alter and counter pump as much as possible. But yeah, you should try to like ring of fire first. And then after this, after you do your burst phase, you've essentially like put everything on CD, right? Your ring of fire, surge, touch palm, and you've probably altered by then too at that point. Maybe even mirror image and blast wave. And this is the best time. Once you force defenses during your burst phase, we get dispersed, right? And we've gotten stack earlier already. That's when it's best to go behind the pillar and use your shifting power, because then your shifting power will reset all the buttons you just pressed, and you'll be able to burst earlier again, sooner than later, and you'll have defensives up sooner than later for when you need it. Because surge is like double the cooldown length of touch palm, you're usually just going to get another palm blast in without your surge. So you'll do a go with surge palm blast, and then do a second go with just palm blast, and then do a third go with your surge palm blast again. So you alternate. Every other go you won't have a surge. surge. You want to tighten things up so that way things don't get desynced. And I think I mentioned it earlier, but once you touch, yes, get those missiles out if it's ideal, but squeeze in those palm blasts as soon as possible so they don't desync. When I first started playing Arcane, I had the problem of like having touch be back up, but palm still be on cooldown for 25 seconds. You don't want that happening. But anyways, that was just a basic example of doing damage. If you guys would like a guide on like more defensive utility usage, I could do that in the future. Just request it in the comments if that's something you're interested in. Maybe like the video. And yeah, hopefully this helps you guys out, help you understand the damage a little bit more. And I'll see you guys in the next video.